No mai, haere mai. Welcome to our Involve webinar series. These hour-long presentations are a way for our friends from across the sector to connect to you, inform you, and get you excited about our in-person conference Involve Reunion 2021. Find out more at involve.org.nz.
Kia ora, ko Shannon toko ingoa, kei aratahi tahu mahi. Welcome back to our second February Involve webinar on Wednesdays. These are just like hour-long presentations to whet your appetite, we think. We're very excited about Involve Reunion 2021. Reminder, it's here in Te Whanganui-a-Tara, 9th to the 11th of August. And applications to present are open now. But first off, I'll start with a karakia. And if you know this one, please join in. Ka inoa tātou, ko ranganui kei runga, ko papatūnuku kei raro, ko ngā tangata kei wainanui, tihei mauri ora. I'm pretty excited. We're prompt, you're prompt. So I'm going to ask the awesome Ross McCook to turn on his video, unmute himself, and we're excited to hear about resilient rangatahi, a lot about the mahi that you're doing, Ross, and particularly about how you're working alongside young people to enhance their resilience and enhance those that are working alongside them. So once again, massive mihi to you to come here to share your stuff, and I know it's jam-packed, so I'm going to let you take it away.
Oh, awesome. Thanks so much, Shannon. Kia ora koutou, everyone. Thank you again, Shannon, and your techie crew, and everyone at Ara Taiohi. So real privilege to be here today. Wow, what a crazy times, right? So obviously, this was supposed to be part of the 2020 presentation, so it's a little bit of a catch-up. So the catch-up has now become a feeder for Conference 2021, which we're super excited about that. So yeah, for those of you that are logging on, feel free to introduce yourself. I'm hoping everyone can hear me okay. I can't see your faces, so I'm assuming you're there. Yeah, I can see some names there, that's cool. There is a bit of a Q&A feature there as well. There should be down the bottom of your screen. So feel free to drop some things in there as we go. And we'll see how we go for time towards the end. So yeah, I've got a fair bit to get through. This is something I'd normally do over a good solid hour and a half, maybe more. But yeah, here we go. So we'll see how we go. So welcome those just tuning in. So again, as Shannon said, my name's Ross, and I head up a beautiful youth mentoring organisation called Heart for Youth in Tamaki Makaurau. I actually wear a few hats as well. So I'm one of two lead trainers for the New Zealand Youth Mentoring Network, and I see Joy there, Joy Eaton, and a few others from the network. So welcome, team. So good to see you here. So I've been doing that for 3 or 4 years, delivering their programs across this beautiful land, and so I had such an amazing privilege to meet so many people doing the beautiful mahi with our rangatahi. So and just recently, like I didn't have enough to do, I actually just got involved in an amazing program called Whitiki Taua, which translates got your back or standing behind you. So Whitiki Taua is it's a government initiative actually. It's certainly a national first. It might be a world first, I'm not sure, but I've decided not to Google it, because if I found out it isn't, then I'd have to say it's not a world first. So to the best of my knowledge, it's a world first. So it's a virtual youth mentoring program to support rangatahi and the mana and mahi mentoring program, which supports young people that have been on the work and income support benefit for fairly substantial periods of time, who are now in apprentices. They're in apprenticeship. So that's delivered through home care medical, telehealth hubs. So super excited. We started at the end of 2019 and then COVID hit. But through that time, they supported 50 rangatahi. Some of them sadly actually even lost their jobs in the middle of that, but Whitiki Taua kept kept going. So we've just trained another 7 part-time mentors coming on board. That program's expanding, so you'll probably hear a bit more about that as we go. So yeah, a little bit about me. Yeah, I've been doing the mahi 20 plus years. A couple of things you need to know about me, and for those that have been to some of my trainings, you'll get this. So I come with labels, and I'm actually all good with my labels. So I'm actually OCD, obsessive compulsive, and ADD, which is attention deficit. And what that means is actually everything needs to be super organized, but not for very long. So I have tried to be organized here today, and I'm sort of glad that you guys, I'm not looking at your screens, because I don't know if you're one of those Zoomers where you see something behind someone and you want to know what that thing is. So for me, I've just got a bit of a logo there. I don't know if you get distracted, talk to each other on the chat. I'm okay with that. The other thing about me is I'm a boomer. Yeah, go to boomers. Any other boomers in there, jump in the chat. I'm actually proudly a boomer, and Chloe Shawbrick expounded us to the world, and I was talking about this recently, and a young person stood up in a seminar and she said, Ross, on behalf of my people, we apologize to your people. So all is good. But the reason why I love that is there's 2 things I love about youth mentoring. One is I love it when young people get excited about helping other young people. That excites the socks off me. But secondly, when people that have been around for a while are either still doing the mahi, or they kind of get that awakening. And at our organisation, Heart for Youth, you know, we talk about ourselves as being a bridging, brokering organisation. So we're saying to young people, you know what, there are adults that would really love to connect with you, and you know, have a relationship with you. And we're saying to young people, you know, older people would like to connect. See, I just got distracted off the chat. Older people, we're saying to them, there's young people love to connect with you, and young people, we're saying there's older people that love to connect with you. So we're kind of like that bridging, brokering organisation. So what I love to do is try to inspire people around youth mentoring, and just take away some of the misunderstandings around that, and what it takes and what it doesn't take to be a mentor. And I really do believe wholeheartedly that doesn't matter how old you are, you know, you can be an amazing, influential older person to a younger person. So that's a little bit about myself. So the topic of resilience, we're going to be talking about that today, and I'm going to keep an eye on that clock. So I'm going to try and leave you with some practical tips rather than just talking about it. Some practical tips. We've got a little cool exercise that we do at Heart for Youth, and that I do with other trainings as well for the network. And you can work that with yourself, you can work that with your team, you can work that with the tamariki and rangatahi of your world. So I want to try and leave you with a couple of practical relational aspects today. But in terms of the need for resilience, and what I want you to do is I want you to have a think about the word resilience. And just as I'm talking, you can drop in the chat, you know, tell me what your interpretation or understanding is of a resilient young person, or what does resilience mean for you? And this would normally be something that we'd break out and do in small groups, but we don't have that capacity today. So get that chat going, and just tell me what you think the word resilience means to you, or what does a resilient person look like? And so if there was ever a time where, you know, we need to see resilient young people, it's certainly now. And I guess, you know, for me growing up and having a few years behind me, I've probably got more behind me than in front of me. You know, when I was growing up, it was all about the IQ, right? It was all about your intelligence. And fortunately, we've merged a little bit more into that EQ. And so what I tend to see with a lot of young people is, and it's not a bad thing, right? It's a good thing. Hey, Mel, I can see you there. Thank you. The ability to work through adversity. Yeah, great. Someone else drop in there your thoughts on resilience. And so what we see, and there's such a huge expectation for our young people to be open, to be empathetic, and to be aware. So we've got things like cultural awareness, relationally aware, eco-aware, politically aware, racially aware, gender aware. So we do have a very aware generation coming through, which is awesome. So, but the flip side of that, especially I guess in terms of the media, like there's incredible things going on. Like let's just say, for example, there's a phrase that I only heard a couple of years ago, and it was new to me, and it was the term eco-anxiety, right? Eco-anxiety. So you know what I'm talking about when we talk about eco-anxiety. And so that's a thing, that's a real thing. And so that's anxiety created around what's happening in our world in terms of global warming, et cetera, et cetera. So there's this huge thing around awareness, and there's amazing things happening around the positives of our ecology and what's going on in the world, but because media essentially bad news sells, and so a lot of these aspects that we're hearing about, there's a lot of positives, but our young people aren't necessarily hearing those. And so with that comes a huge burden. So with awareness comes understanding, and understanding of things not always been that positive. And so, you know, we have young people that are carrying burdens like never ever before. And, you know, it's fair to say there wouldn't be any generation in history that hasn't carried burdens, but what we're seeing is really quite different from what we've seen before. So for us, working, you know, with young people, we want to be able to build resilience. So we're going to break that down and talk a little bit about that. And, you know, I did a radio interview recently with a friend of mine, and we were talking about youth suicide and, you know, why and how and all these sorts of things. And obviously understanding there's no silver bullet one answer for that. Thank you. Just reading your comments there. Resilience, the ability to move through hard times. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Resilience is about building a process rather than a state of being. Yeah, fantastic. I'd agree with that, to talk with that. So what we want to do is obviously build resilience and learn some skills around that. And so a friend of mine was saying that her 15-year-old came home, I think last year, when the Amazon jungle fires were on, and he was very concerned. He said, "Mum, the lungs of the Amazon are burning." How do you answer that? Like, oh, okay, it'll be fine. The fire service will put it out with a hose, you know. And so that's a huge burden for a 15-year-old to be carrying. So we need to push back. And, you know, I've got to say, I think, like, it is great that we're creating this awareness amongst our young people, but sometimes I don't think it's a bad thing if we actually try and shrink their worlds in a bit. I don't think that's a bad thing. And I think as adults, let them know they don't have to know everything. They don't have to be standing for every cause and retweeting this and that and all the rest of it, you know, because there are so many things that can really kind of tie us up and bog us down. So we're going to have a chat again, as I say, around resilience, and great to see some comments coming through. Keep those coming through. Make sure you change it. Thank you. All panelists and attendees, have we got that? Yeah, I'm sure that's fine. Shannon will take care of that. All right, so we want to have a little bit of a breakdown on that. So as I say, I'm going to give you some practical tools on what that might look like. So I am going to attempt, people, to go to a PowerPoint, and then I actually have a video, which I did get that going. It was better luck than management, I've got to say, but here we go. Here we go. So resilient rangatahi. So we're going to be talking a little bit around that. So one of the beautiful modules we teach is how do we actually build that? How do we foster that in terms of working with young people? And because, as I said, we understand that we need to have resilient young people. We need to be resilient as well. So that definition of resilience, and one of the things we love to do is sit in groups and come up with a dictionary definition of resilience, which we won't have time to do today. But for me, I think, so often when we talk about resilience, often people, and it's not wrong, but a common definition of resilience we'll hear is perseverance, right? So someone that keeps going, that's strong and doesn't go down easy and all the rest of it, which is true. But I think one of the things, most of us will be aware of someone in life that we've known that's just been that amazing person, that the go-to kind of person, the strong one, the leader, the person that's out in front, and nothing seems to affect them. They're kind of 10 foot tall and bulletproof, and they just go and they go and go and go and go, and that's almost our expectation of who they are. And then, possibly sometimes what happens in life is they stop going and they go down. And sometimes, sadly, they don't come up again. And many of us, will know people like that. And sadly, they're not here with us today. So whilst perseverance is a big factor of resilience, to me, resilience is, in fact, I think I'm one slide ahead, and we'll go back in a sec. It's bounce back ability, right? So it's not necessarily going and going and going. It's when we do go, and then when we do go down, it's actually that ability to bounce back, and we have to have that. And so in our trainings with the network, I love to use this little very simple analogy, and I quite physically have a marble, a marshmallow, and a rubber ball. And so the question is, if we were to drop the marshmallow, the marble, and the rubber ball from an equal height, which one's likely to bounce back? And of course, it's going to be the rubber ball. And we have a little vote on that. The occasional person goes for the marshmallow, but on the whole, it's going to be the rubber ball. And we usually ask why that is, and we get all sorts of great answers. Oh, it's because it's rubber, because there's air inside, which there isn't, although there probably is microcells within the rubber. So anyway, we understand that the reason why the rubber ball bounced back, oh, it's a big link with that picture, I don't know where I stole that from, is that it really is a combination between the two. So it's got in order for us to bounce back, or the rubber ball to bounce back, it's got to have a little bit of firmness and a little bit of give. And my observation of 20 plus years working with young people, and being a former CIS, child and family caregiver back in the day, and still doing respite care for Arama Tamariki. And often, and many of you will understand that, is when we come across tamariki and rangatahi that have been subject to a lot of adversity, so that could be trauma or family harm, whatever it might be, is they tend to, this is just my observation, they tend to usually go one of two ways. So they either go like the marble, very hard, that real kind of staunch barrier. I always remember a young boy that came into our program, and every time I go to pick him up, he was a little fella, he was only 8. He'd come out with this very stern, kind of staunch look on his face, and he looked like he was angry. And I'd think, oh, gee, what's going on with this little guy? And he'd get in the van, and he was fine. And he'd just learnt to create this hard exterior, and that way it would kind of keep people at a safe distance for him. So we tend to either go really, really that real hard staunch, or we go the other way, with that marshmallow, where we just, people manipulate us and push us around, and we're not able to say no to things, and none of those outcomes are favourable. So we want to be able to have a little bit of both, and we want to be able to have some flexibility. Resiliency, and again, there's lots of different definitions on that. So resiliency is the ability to thrive, mature, and increase competence in the face of adverse circumstances. These circumstances may include biological abnormalities or environmental obstacles. Our beautiful foster son, who came into our life at around about the age of 15, very, very severely dyslexic, and I observed just so many beautiful examples of resilience and being able to navigate that through, not being able to write, but just being able to find ways around that. Incredible to see that. So we often see that with young people. So we've got to have that ability to move and have some sort of flexibility. Some of you might recognize this, or you might not. If you're in Tamaki Makaurau, that is actually underneath the Auckland Harbour Bridge on the northern side. I used to play here when I was a kid, and you don't do that anymore because there's barbed wire and alarms. But I was here a couple of years ago, and I observed something Some of you will be familiar with the clip-on lanes and these big pillars that hold up you while you're driving over the Auckland Harbour Bridge. And I remember looking at this portion down there at the bottom. Hopefully you can see my arrow there. And I was quite surprised to see that this was what was holding up the Auckland Harbour Bridge. And it was a big pillar and a rounded piece with a little clip. And the reason why that was rounded, and we have some great conversations around that, why that might be, is because the Auckland Harbour Bridge is designed to move and it's designed to give. And in fact, if it wasn't designed to give and move, it would break down pretty rapidly. And if any of you have been caught in Auckland traffic and stopped on the Auckland Harbour Bridge, which is pretty normal when you live over on the shore, you'll know that that bridge moves incredibly. So, you know, we've got to move. I believe there's things within us that cause us to be able to be flexible and to move and to be resilient. So I'm going to give you two practical tips in a moment around building resilience into young people. But before that, I'm going to try and get this up for you. So it's a video by Mike King, and it's called "Is Perfection the Enemy of Good Parenting?"
We live in a country where, as parents, none of us talk about our failings. None of us admit to being flawed individuals, and we all want to be perfect. Well, guess what? In our drive for perfection, all we are doing is planting the seed in our kids' heads that I'm not perfect, I will never be perfect. What's the point of being here? Everyone else is amazing, I'm useless. There are only two things our children want. They don't want computers, they don't want cars, they don't want money, all of the things that we think children want. There's two things our kids want. One, they want to be loved. They want to know that you care. Second, most importantly, they want to be validated. They want to know that the things that come out of their mouth, their ideas, their opinions, are heard and they matter. As parents, we are so busy with our busy lives, either trying to put food on the table or climb the social ladder, that we are neglecting our time with our children. When our children say something to us, we are too quick to shoot down their ideas. Dad, I scored 2 goals at soccer today. Yeah, I was at the game, mate. You missed 4, you should have scored 6. Dad, I got a B. The money I'm spending, you should have got an A. You know, we can justify all of those little put downs in isolation. But think about this, parents. 5 little put downs a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for 15 years. That's a hell of an inner critic you've just planted in your child's head. How about validating your children's ideas? You know, oh, but my son wants to be a racing car driver. Get your head around it. Well, we can't be a racing car driver. That costs millions of dollars. Get your head around it. There's a fine line between a racing car driver and a courier driver. You're both driving someone else's car really fast. Let them change their minds 50 times a day. Encourage, encourage, encourage. Even at 30 years old, if they haven't done any of the things that they said that they wanted to do, all your child is going to know is that you loved them and they mattered.
I don't know about you, but I love that video, and I've shown that video so many times and had the pleasure of actually speaking alongside Mike King and connecting with him a bit, and it's just so profoundly positive. And I remember sharing that actually over in the United States. Our charity runs in San Jose, California. I remember sharing that there. One day, I've got to be limited on who I can share over there because they can't always understand us Kiwis. And there was a lady there, one of the trustees actually, and she came back 6 months later when I was there, and I shared the video again, and she said, "Ross, can I share something with you?" And she told a story about one of her grandchildren had been whāngai out to her, and she said after watching that video with Mike King, she just absolutely just got slammed kind of in a spirit, really, with a very heavy heart. And because what she'd realized that every time her granddaughter was probably about 16 or 17 at the time, would come up with an idea that my friend was convinced wasn't going to work, she thought it was her duty as an adult to tell her why it wasn't going to work, to bring her back down to earth and to ground her. And you know, as adults, often we don't do that very well, do we? And what she realized is that after watching it, she realized that her granddaughter had actually stopped sharing her visions and her dreams with her. And she said within a week of just turning that around and becoming an encourager, it just made such a profound difference. And I love what Mike King says when he talks about 5 little put downs, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for 15 years. That's a hell of an inner critic you just planted in your child's head. And gosh, some of us parents can go, oh my goodness. And I don't know, someone do the maths on that. I think it works out at about 27,000 negative statements that young person's going to receive by the time they're 15. And what I'd love to share when we're talking about Heart for Youth, what I've noticed is it doesn't take 27,000 affirmations to flip that. In fact, I think one affirmation probably cancels about 100 or 500 negatives, and young people are just really hungry for those affirming words. And so, you know, certainly having someone that's just encouraging them with the simplest things is going to be something that's going to help build resilience into their world. So, you know, can I just really encourage you to be an encourager, to be really deliberate about it, and without sort of blowing sunshine. I think it is really, really important. I remember this beautiful wahine young person up north. I did a youth session up there, Kaikoi, and she was saying, as a young person, she really dislikes it when adults just tell her she's awesome. Like, oh wow, you're so awesome. And for her, it was almost cheap talk, you know what I mean? And her thing was, if you're going to tell me I'm awesome, I want to know why I'm awesome, you know, which is cool, isn't it? So so all our young people are awesome, aren't they? But we need to be telling them why. And you know, I'm a huge believer in fake it till you make it. Brain wiring says that if we do something over and over enough, it becomes a part of who we are. It becomes close to our default. And so I've got to be honest, my upbringing, whānau, we weren't known for encouraging each other. In fact, probably a little bit the opposite. There can be unity and negativity, can't there? You know, it's that old adage, you can put 100 people in the room, 2 of them are negative and they'll find each other in about 5 minutes. So we don't want to be those people, do we? We want to be those encouragers. So be really deliberate in your encouragement, because as Kiwis, we don't do as well as we could. We're masters at the tall poppy syndrome, aren't we? So be an encourager, people, be an encourager. All right, so I'm just going to jump back to our PowerPoint, and I'm going to give you 2 strategies around developing resilience. Hope you guys are all hearing me. Feel free to drop something in the chat there if any of this is encouraging or helpful or whatever. And just a reminder, there is a Q&A room there as well. You can drop some questions and answers in there, and we can have a little korero around that towards the end. All right, so 2 key strategies that will build resilience in us and others. And so our great friend Robin Cox, many of you will know Robin Cox, bit of a legend in the mentoring arena in this country and a few other countries as well. So he trained me. I think he trained Dave from, sorry, David, your last name escapes me, from Brothers in Arms, now Upside Mentoring, doing amazing mahi. So Robin's a bit of a legend. So Robin, in his book around developing a resilient spirit, he talks about internal and external resilience builders. Yeah, so internal and external resilience builders. So when holistically we're with our rangatahi, we want to be constantly thinking about what's going on the inside and what's going on around them. And so inside, outside, internal, external. And what do we mean by that? So all of us as human beings have what we call, or what Robin calls, personal resilience builders, right? So these are DNA things, and obviously there's a lot of things about us as human beings that is nature and nurture. So nature says that within all of us, and this is not the definitive list of things that help us be resilient, you'll find qualities within yourself and within young people. And as we're going through this, as well as we're looking at this list, I want you to be thinking about some of the things that are within you as an adult, right? And so these are things that we discover as we grow as human beings. So things like initiative, grit and determination, flexibility, and there can be antonyms, there can be opposites around that. We can find kids sometimes that are incredibly inflexible, especially if they're a little bit on the spectrum. It's got to be that way or no way. So things like perseverance, humor, creativity, independence. Some kids are just naturally really relational. Others have got, great ability to perceive things. Spirituality, wairua on the inside, optimism, solid self-belief. Now, as adults, as a mentor, what I love to do is I look for these qualities within these young people, and I don't just look at them and go, that's nice. Wow, he's such an optimistic kid, or he's got a great sense of humor. And so as adults, often we think this stuff, but we don't say this stuff. And it's a little bit like emotional literacy. So most of you will be familiar with the term emotional literacy. So that's my ability not just to feel emotions, but actually define them, to know what they are. I remember green as green could be. I took on a 15-year-old boy, child, youth and family, and boy, this awesome young boy, man, he'd been through some trauma. By the time he'd come to me, he'd been in, I think, 13 different foster homes. And so, a lot of challenges there, but, I always used to kind of look for some of those positives within him and actually name them. And so as we work with our young people, we see these things. And the flip side of that, with that boy I was talking about, is often what would happen, back to that emotional literacy, is often he'd say, oh, I'm not feeling very well, I'm sick in my stomach. And it took me a while to work out he wasn't sick at all. He was just feeling anxiety. And so we were able to break that down and explain what was actually happening. And so similarly with personal resilience builders, there's some great qualities that are within young people that we as adults need to name and call out. So giving great examples to, who could I pick on? Joy, I think she's out there, little Joy Eaton. Joy, oh my goodness, younger Joy. Wow, Joy, you're so optimistic, and Joy's looking at me like, what are you talking about? So, wow, Joy, I saw you on that camp, the Friday night, and, it got cancelled at the last minute because of the weather. And yeah, I know it didn't actually rain anyway. And everyone else was really, really negative. And you are, you're a glass half full kind of a person, Joy, and you showed great optimism, right? Now, Joy didn't know she was an optimistic person. That was kind of her default thing. But by observing that as an adult and saying, wow, I love your optimism. I love the way you persevere. Man, you've got great initiative. Wow, I love that flexibility. And wow, that was very cool that you let that go and you let someone else have your place. And I love that faith aspect about you, or whatever it is, right? So we're going to take these things and name these things. And once again, if you practice that as a mentor, as a social worker, as a youth navigator, wherever you sit within the mahi, if you practice it deliberately, after a while, it just becomes a little bit of a default on who you are. And I remember I shared this recently. One of our boys dropped him off in our program. I'll call him Mark. And a bigger boy, but very soft, a little bit of a target, had a lot of bullying. And he was the last one in my van. Awesome kid, really well mannered. And just as he opened the back door of my van, as he got out, I said to him, Mark, you know what? I just want to tell you, mate, you're awesome. I love having you around, and you're so helpful, and you're so generous, and it's just awesome having you. And he was just like, he almost pulled out a pen and paper and was writing it down, and he was just drinking it in. And I just like a quick fire gun, just hit him with 5 awesome things before he got out of that van. He jumped out of the van, a big smile on his face, and away we went. And I did a U-turn. I actually laughed out loud at myself. And sometimes, we've got to be our greatest champions. Nothing wrong with that. So I thought, wow, Ross, that was pretty awesome, because I didn't think about it. I just thought, here's an opportunity, and he is a cool kid, and he's super helpful and all the rest of it. And I could have just said goodbye, but I was just like, and who knows? I mean, that could have been, what got him out of bed the next day, or got him through the day, or got him through the week. Who knows? And so again, let's look at those personal resilience builders. So the things on the inside, looking for them, naming them, showing examples to our young people of where you can see that in their lives. So hopefully you find that helpful. Hopefully you've made an opportunity to write some of those things down. I'm not sure if we share our PowerPoints later. I can certainly do that. All right, so internal resilience builders. So the next thing we look at is external. So creating a web, you could call it wraparound, couple of beautiful mentors and mentees in our program. That photo there, I love it so much. That's little Aroha on the right, and their mentor, Mihi. This is shared with permission, and that's actually a street art, hand-painted mural on a primary school and on the North Shore of Aroha, a tribute to a mum that had passed away. I love that. So very resilient young girl. All right, so building a web of resilience. So what we want to do as mentors is obviously provide things like care and support. And, often I share when we're training with the New Zealand Youth Mentoring Network that, it's great for us to see as an organisation just how valuable we are. Your organisation might be that only safe haven. We talk about creating culture and youth mentoring with the amazing Rod Baxter. And so what is the culture of my youth mentoring organisation when they come in? What does it feel like? What does it look like? What's the language of this place? Is it inclusive? Do I feel warm and welcomed, all the rest of it? And do I feel provided for, care and support? I love this one, bit clinical, increase pro-social bonding. Well, what does that mean? So in the mentoring space, as mentors, we don't just keep our kids to ourselves. We love to introduce them, and the many kids that I've done respite care with and fostered over the years, I introduce them to my parents and my friends and my neighbours and other mentors, and some of them have connected better than me, and I've handed them over. So increasing pro-social bonding. Setting clear and consistent boundaries, teaching life skills. Obviously, there's a great opportunity to do that. At Heart for Youth, our 4 core values are accept, connect, equip, and encourage. Accept, connect, equip, and encourage. And so often I think we go to the equip. We want to teach them life skills, and we want to do personal development. All that stuff's great. But unless that young person feels accepted by you, unless they feel they have a connection with you, it's highly unlikely you're going to be able to teach them anything, because they're not going to receive it, right? They might be sitting in a program with you for an hour, but unless you have a relationship with them, it's unlikely. So with youth mentoring, our focus is on the relationship, and then from that, we have the ability to bring in some of that personal development. And then again, encourage. We're all about encouraging here at Heart for Youth. So I set and communicate high but attainable expectations, provide opportunities for meaningful participation. What does that mean? Let's just get our kids out in the community, get them involved in community, find out what they want to do some things together with them. And I think across those 2 things, increasing pro-social bonding, providing opportunities for meaningful participation, are huge, obviously. So the other thing, I couldn't go further without talking about Te Whare Tapa Whā. So most of you will be familiar with Te Whare Tapa Whā, and often through my trainings with the network, there's a lot of people that have come into the sector that just love working with Rangatahi, and they've started off and they're not familiar with Te Whare Tapa Whā, and that's okay. I mean, we don't have time to go through it all today, but if you're not, can I ask you to maybe familiarise yourself with it? And so what I love about the amazing organisations, so many of them now are including Te Whare Tapa Whā as a form of building resilience. So they're doing it quite strategically as part of their programs. So taha tinana, that physical health, taha wairua, spiritual, taha whānau, family, taha hinenaro, excuse my pronunciation, that mental health. And so you can do that as an organisation, as a team, or you can actually just do that informally by just kōreroing with your young people. Hey, bro, how you feeling? You're looking really tired, how's things at home, Wow, gee, it sounds like you're a little stressed. So within a conversation, you can, and it's about the 4 pillars of wharenui. So the house, standing, so having that equal balance. And so again, you can do that formally, informally. Another example through the network is te wheke, the octopus, the tentacles, is that what you call them? I think you do. And a Pacifica model of that is whanawhale as well. So, there are lots of great models, and you can embrace them as an organization, as an individual. If your focus on your mentoring program or your program in general is around, maybe some of those cultural aspects, teaching them about whakapapa or whatever it might be. Some of these things are obviously huge influences in creating resilience. Having a young person, we talk about culture and identity, one of the training modules we do. Another training module very close to resilience is one I deliver on self-image and self-esteem and knowing the difference and all the rest of it. So, we don't have time to go into these, but can I encourage you, if you're not familiar with them, have a look into them. They're easily found, or maybe have a chat to some of your co-workers around that. And great to have some kōrero around that. And we always have great discussions at the New Zealand Youth Mentoring Network training, and so encouraging to hear organisations embracing Te Whare Tapawhā and other examples. All right, we haven't got too much more time to go, so we might even finish early. That'd be amazing for me, for those who know me. And so I just want to share with you a little practical. So I'm just going to have a sip of my water here. I'll change the slide. I just want to share with you this. I made this, right? I Googled a soccer ball image. And I made that, and it fits with the bouncing back. So that same little marble marshmallow thing, I do that in primary schools right through to adults. The kids always want to eat the marshmallow until I tell them it's 2 years old and we dropped on the floor multiple times. But anyway, this is my little bouncing back model exercise, and you can make one of these yourself, and it works really well. It works really well with kids. It works really well with adults. And while you're looking at this, please be thinking about it for yourself personally. And so what it is a rubber ball, a soccer ball there, or volleyball or whatever, and there's numbers on the ball, and then there's numbers around the ball. And so all you do is you think about things firstly on the ball or inside the ball. So what are the things that are within me? Yeah, so within that set of initiatives that we get, those internal resilience builders that help me bounce back. And it's amazing how often I do this with adults, and they've never stopped to think about the fact that they're just gritty, gutsy, persevering type people, or that great sense of humor that always got you into trouble, like myself at school, actually is a fantastic resilience builder. If you can laugh at a trying situation, it creates a whole lot of good chemicals going on within your body. Laughter is a good medicine, as we know that. So just stopping for a moment and thinking about yourself. What are some of those internal resilience builders that have helped you get through as an adult? Thinking about some of the rangatahi that you're working with right now. What are some of the qualities that are in them that they don't know are in them, that you've seen in them? And think about how you could actually get them to become aware of some of those internal resilience builders. What are some of those beautiful qualities within you around the outside? And I'm always amazed when I do this exercise with young adults, they just come up with beautiful, beautiful things. So what are those things around you? What are those things in community? And for some of them, it's nature. It's going to the beach. It's climbing the mountain. It could be faith, could be church, community, could be youth group, could be mosque, could be anything with a strong community, a great feeling of inclusiveness. It could be music, could be the love of animals. People just say, man, I just go to my dog and my dog's faithful. My dog never judges me and greets me and meets me the same time every time, you know. So these are great things to have a think about it. So for you as a person, as a human being, what are some of the things in your life, in your world right now that keep you bouncing back? Who are those people? Whānau, friends, maybe parents? My mum's, she's kicking 85 and knocking it out of the park, still volunteering, incredible lady. And I just have the most beautiful conversation. She's a part of that external thing that keeps me resilient. I can still have great conversations with my mama, and she still wants to cook me breakfast and bake every time I go around there, which is awesome. It's amazing how quickly we just retreat into childlike nature. Oh, thanks, Mum. That's awesome. So some of those external things, what do those things look like for you? So I'll just leave that up there for a sec. You can have a think about it. What I'd love you to do is just jump into the chat, and can you fire me some things in there, just single words, some of the things that help you bounce back, just as we're closing. And I think my second to last slide, how we're going for time. Let me just check that. Okay, cool. So key mental resiliency strategies, there's 3 or 4 here. So always communicating a resilient attitude. I can see the chat saying ping away, people. Please drop some things in there. So focusing on strength. As a mentor, I'm going to focus on strength. I'm going to encourage. Look for those internal resilience builders. Yeah, that's why having fun and just getting out there and doing some cool stuff, the amount of learnings that come working with young people and just having fun is phenomenal. It's just a win for everyone. Watch out for the fun police, they're everywhere. It's like, what does Rod Baxter say? Keeping you safe and having some fun. Love that. So, and then building that resilience web around your mentee. Yeah, so getting some of that wraparound, think about it. I've got a document, in fact, I'm really happy to share it. It's called 130 plus things to do with a young person. And it literally is 130 plus things to do with a young person. And the other one is, never give up on them. So just let them know that you ain't going to give up on them. You know, I mentor 4 boys myself. They're incredible, age 9 through to 24. And gosh, they've been through some challenges, and they know that, you know, I'm going to be there for them to the best of my capacity. And finally, in the words of Tigger, well, actually it wasn't quite Tigger, but he's on the slide. So life is not about how fast you run or how high you climb, but how well you bounce back. And I think that's probably a good place for me to finish up there. So I'm going to stop sharing and come back to you. Music, laughter, I love that. Friends I can talk to, pets, fantastic. Cool, thank you. Yeah, that's me, I think. I don't know if anyone's got anything they want to drop in the questions or contribute, and I'm quite happy to duck out, but thank you so much for having me. Sorry we've gone pretty quickly. I hope you got some good things out of that. Thank you for having me, Shannon, and I'll pass it back to you.
Ngā mihi kia koe, Ross. I absolutely adore that. If you could chuck your email in the chat, that would be awesome. We'll also promote your website when we post this up on YouTube. And yeah, we can take the PowerPoints, and I know a lot of people, I'm pretty certain, would be very keen for your resources. I so loved that sharing specific affirmations. So Ross, I absolutely appreciated and inspired by your compassion and your experience and knowledge. And I really love those on the fly mentoring role play examples that you had. It's like, add that to my kite definitely for when I work alongside young people. I'd also like to say that the connection with your resilience web and our mana taiohi principles are very strong. Whanaunatanga, hononga, whaiwahitanga, mauri o te taiohi. Like, I think that they just connect very well, almost like awesome. A web, one would say. So a reminder, we'll be posting this up on YouTube so that people can share this. I know, Ross, that many people couldn't make it today, but it is now a virtual resource.
Yay.
And a reminder again to everybody who has tuned in that we are asking for applications to present at Involve 2021. All information about that is at involve.org.nz. And I'll just close off now with a karakia. So if you know it, jump in. If you don't, just please come along on the journey. And I really, once again, Ross, what an epic journey you've taken us on.
Ngā mihi nui, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, so ka inoi tātou. Kia whakairia te tapu, kia wātea ai te ara. Kia turuki whakataha ai, kia turuki whakataha ai. Haumie, huie, tai ki e. Thanks everyone. Ka kite. Thanks Ross.